So, gentlemen, here we all are together. We've got a couple of new faces here we'll talk about in just a moment. We have Dan Summers from Salem, Oregon, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, we have Ben Carter from my hometown of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Nice you guys to join us. And the reason that these guys are here, of course, Drew and G-Man, is that they were attending your 3-day boot camp.
Yes.
So we're going to get to that in just a moment, what they took away, how they're going to implement what they've learned into their companies, how they're using the EGIA Contractor U platform to develop and grow their company. But first, Mr. G-Man, let's talk about these new additions to the whiskey. We might want to just start with the Boss Hog again there, just to make sure everybody knows that. And then we'll talk about the other two.
Yeah, so we've got the Boss Hog, which is Whistle Pig Rye, and it's the Samurai Boss Hog.
Yep.
And it is a very powerful whiskey. I mean, it's basically cask strength.
It's an Irish cooker.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of heat and very, very powerful. Not typically like a rye. It doesn't have a lot of sweetness to it, but definitely a lot of caramel, a lot of cinnamon. Yep. It's outstanding. It's an expensive bottle though, so it's one of those bottles that you have to want as opposed to just it's not an everyday drinking type whiskey.
Yeah, it was $500 a bottle.
About $500.
That we get the nice whiskeys and stuff. As I mentioned in the previous episode, the pressure of going to the liquor store under specific directions from you to get that, and also this other one here, this Macallan 6. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, the Macallan 6 is the latest release, and it's I believe the last release. So it's not a 6-year-old. It's the number 6.
Yep. Oh, I got specific instructions.
So it represents, a series of single malt platforms, and so this is number 6, and we're going to crack that one open next. So
yeah, we definitely should. And then this other one right here, what's it called? I don't know the name of it. Fry something. What's the other side of it? Fry Ranch. So I walk in the liquor store when I got to the airport. You guys were doing the boot camp. I went to the liquor store. And I walk in to get these other two, and there's a guy there with a couple of young ladies, and they're doing a whiskey tasting. And I take a sip, and it was very delish, and it was a local. He grows the rye, right? Those are like little wheat things or whatever they are, and they grow them here locally, just outside of Las Vegas. He distills everything here in Las Vegas, and wanted to support the local guys, and bought that bottle as well. We haven't tried it yet. I did have a sample in the store. It was very tasty. Guy's name was Cody, and he signed, if you flip it around there, Drew, he actually signed it for me. So I'm officially a big fan of Cody. So Cody was a cowboy, and he brews some very, we'll find out, but from what I've seen so far, a very tasty rye whiskey. So with that having been said, we have us today, as I mentioned, Ben and Dan, and they attended your class, and so we'll just get started talking to you, Dan, if you don't mind. I know that you and Gary go way back, but talk to me about the number of times. This is not your first time at the boot camp. Talk to me about how many times you've attended, and why do you attend, for multiple years?
Well, the very first time that I attended, I think that my budget was $250,000 for the whole year.
Wow.
And through Gary's training and expertise, now that's
your whiskey budget now.
Yeah,
things have gotten really good for you, man.
It's gotten really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do 4 times that in a month. So
yeah.
it's really exciting.
That's wonderful, man.
To have those processes in place and to know how to actually budget for my advertising, for my pricing, and know exactly how to do that so that I'm not like every other contractor out there just hoping that I'm being departmentalized and getting that all set up. So we had a situation where I had to let my service manager go, but I wouldn't have known that had I not been departmentalized.
Right.
But we were losing a lot of money, and we're making money, but I could see this department. Yeah. And I knew that I was losing money on my service manager, and so
that's one of the most difficult things in business, is making those tough decisions.
Oh yeah,
letting somebody go because they've got a mortgage, they've got kids, they've got groceries, and the tendency, we were talking about this in a previous episode about the emotion driving decision rather than the data. And it sounds like you got to a point where I'm going to let the data make the decision.
Yeah.
Is that something you learned from Gary?
I did. Yeah. I mean, again, I would not have known that was the issue because he said the right things. He talked the right way. Mm-hmm. He told me everything he said was accurate.
Right.
And he just knew how to do that. And he was really surprised when I let him go because he didn't know the numbers himself. which was a little frustrating to me.
Yeah, that's a tough thing, but it sounds like it's worked out well for you. You're spending $250,000 a month now on whiskey, and so business is good, and a little G-man in your life, put a little money in your life.
Yeah, it's been
good
fantastic.
Stuff to I want to talk to you about one more thing. As you know, we're all part of EGIA's Contractor University. You guys are members of that program. Talk to us a little bit about how you guys use the platform in a day-in, day-out basis, because one of the things that we find is that the platform, it's like a university. It's so robust. You got, the science building over here. You got the math. You got the sales building. You got all this stuff. How do you kind of access the content in a way that makes sense for you and your company?
So at first, I learned how to navigate it. And I went through and I go to the contractor library a lot. And I look at that because there's so much information in there. There's a wealth of knowledge in there. And I believe it's every Monday or Tuesday you guys have your live stuff coming out, and I love watching those. Usually I'm too busy, I can't catch it, but I catch it, throughout the week after it comes out. But it's any time that we have a question or an issue, that's where we go. I'm bringing on a new service manager, Bobby, and so I went on there and I said, okay, Bobby, here's what the roles of a service manager. It's all there.
Yeah.
And then, guess what? We're going to watch Gary's videos. And we're going to sit down and we watch Gary's videos. I mean, some of them are, half an hour, some of them are an hour, but the wealth of knowledge that comes out of that. And then we brought Bobby to Gary's training. And I said, so how'd it go? He said, man, my head's going to explode. But all that, this whole class and more is on the EGI website. And I honestly feel like there's so much information that you can almost get lost in it.
Yeah.
But it's also very specific. So if you say, hey, I'm gonna, I want to know my numbers. I want to learn how to dive into the numbers and become departmentalized. That's there.
Yeah. Well, it's like a university. You go to the university, there's all these different colleges. And so you got to go in the College of Sales for a while.
Yep.
College of Finance, College of Planning, College of Culture, and different things that Gary teaches. And so it can be overwhelming, just like if you were trying to take every major on a university campus, you'd be overwhelmed. You pick a major, one at a time. One of the things that Gary and Drew both talk often about is, a 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. You just got to get involved. Gary, I'm just curious, as sitting there as a guy that's done this for 3 decades, how does it feel, the level of satisfaction, when, Dan comes to you and says, hey, we're doing $250,000 a year, and now he's doing $8, $10, $12 million a year, and he credits a lot of that success for what he's learned from you. I mean, how does that feel?
The whole idea of just helping other people is kind of my purpose and vision in life. That's sort of my dedicated mission. If you talk about the definitive purpose, that Napoleon Hill. So when somebody like Dan or Ben or anybody else for that matter actually implements the work, that's the fuel for the soul. It's really not even the result. It's just watching them take that step. It takes a lot of courage, to change something in your business. And so if you haven't done it before, the first time you're riding the bike, I mean, it's a little bit intimidating for people. And I think business owners are no different. We're emotional creatures.
Sure.
And so it's awesome. And so the fulfillment there is, it's why we do what we do. It's why we keep coming back. It's why we try to be professional. It's why we try to, we travel a lot. We stay in hotels like this. Every once in a while, we get to hang out with good people and drink some whiskey, yuck it up. But the reality is, it's a life on the road for the most part. You're alone a lot. And so the kind of things that you're talking about right there are what actually keep that alive. So without that, it's not cool. So I had a young guy today that was from Russia, and he said, I've been watching these videos for 3 years, and I've been doing all this stuff, and I've been doing everything. And he's like, I've gotten so much implemented, and he's like, I am so thankful to you. He's like, I want to give you my family's crest, the knife that I carry, that I've been carrying, and so he gave me his personal blade, and it's just an amazing collector's item, and it's got, his family crest and his family label on it. And so, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm speechless. It was incredible. It was, so what's that worth? Well, the moment of him just saying, thank you, you've helped me actually survive and prosper, and, my family has benefited from that. That stuff is powerful.
Yeah. I had somebody at an event one time brought me a piece of carrot cake. I love carrot cake.
Yeah.
And it's not the same thing as a knife and a family crest, but I mean, carrot cake's important to a lot of people too.
Well, it depends on what's in the carrot cake.
You know, you're right. The life on the road.
You do live in Colorado.
You know, life on the road is really misunderstood. People think it's glamorous and exciting, and as Drew knows, as you know, as I well know, you know, it's hotel rooms and conference centers and taxis. And you don't really get to see much of the cities you're in. You're usually packing up pretty quick and moving on to the next city like a traveling circus, more or less. And I remember recently I was in a United flight. I hit 1 million miles on United, and the captain came back to congratulate me. And I'm like, all due respect, Captain, it just means I'm never at home, right? It's really nothing for me to celebrate. It's a huge sacrifice that you make. It's a tough way to make a living on the road because, as I joke with people, I have a beautiful family and home in Colorado. I just never see it, right? And so, you know, you should be recognized, and people don't see it as a sacrifice because you're on stage and you're the guy and all that kind of stuff. But there's a huge amount of sacrifice living out there in the road. And I know your wife, who's a real trooper, and she's suffered some health problems in the last year or so, and you continue to grind. And I noticed your schedule. You're always there at the right times, the right surgeries, the right chemos, the right everything. But you balance that somehow with getting out and taking care of your responsibilities. And it's we all see that and admire that and appreciate what you're doing for yourself and for Christy. And we love you for that. And we love her. So, yeah, on that note, we'll talk to Mr. Ben Carter. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Well, how about you?
I'm doing great, man. Welcome to Las Vegas. You were actually here before I was, so you should probably welcome me to Las Vegas.
Welcome to Las Vegas.
So you and I hail from the same small city in Colorado Springs, Colorado. By the way, how long have you been in the Springs?
About 13 years.
13? Mm-hmm. I came there the first time in 1985 on vacation.
Wow.
Moved up there in 87. And went to prison shortly thereafter. Long story. Welcome to read the book. But have been in the Springs, in and out over the last 30 some odd years. And it's a great little city, isn't it?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal place to be, a phenomenal place to raise a family.
It is a beautiful place. And you've got a great little company there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't mean little. I mean, you got a great company there. It's not little.
We're growing.
You're growing, yeah. And so is this the first time you've attended the boot camp here with the G-Men?
The boot camp training in particular, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been to a number of other trainings with the G-Man there, and every time I sit down in a class or I pull up a video on EGIA, my company makes it just a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better.
Yeah, and it really is that one step, right? Trying to get one priority done at a time. One of the things I love about what Gary teaches globally, big picture, but also in these classes, is pick your priorities, right? Because you can't attack everything, right, at one time. But I know you also have a very close relationship with Drew, and he's been involved with your business very much. Talk to me about, some of the things you've learned from Drew that have helped your business, some of the things you've learned from Gary that have helped your business.
You know, I'll tell you, one of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately was a conversation recently I had with Drew, and you know, when you enter into this whole world of, well, I'm going to put down my tool bag and I'm going to go do it myself, and getting all excited, it's exciting, and then you get into it, and all of a sudden it becomes this giant, overwhelming, thing, and then you bring in employees, and now you've got other people, other families who are counting on you and relying on you to do a good job for them. And, to be real honest, it can be terrifying sometimes, And Drew told me one day, he goes, it's really just about making a 1% improvement, little increments, 1% at a time, 1% at a time. And if you can make a little 1% improvement every day, that's a 300% improvement at the end of the year.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Just that, those days when you start to feel overwhelmed, you start looking at, Gary's list of 390 something questions and
prioritize.
And you're just like, oh, what do I do? How do I start? It's 1%, just 1%. And then, we're sitting in class with Gary and we go through all of these different questions and all of these different priorities, and 5. You get 5. There might be 378 on that list of 390 or whatever that you need. But pick the 5. Focus on the 5.
Yeah.
When you get the 5, move to the next one.
That's good stuff. So in addition to learning from Drew, learning from Gary, and being here for the boot camp and the planning. Talk to me about how you leverage the EGI platform, right, in terms of training, ongoing development that you're doing in your company. How does that play a role?
We use the online training for quite a bit. We've had conversations with some of our accounting support staff, and we'll be, talking to them about this is how we're trying to get everything departmentalized, and we need to, above the GP line, below the GP line, this is how we need to structure that. And not being an accounting expert myself, it's really difficult, and I've been able to pull it up and be like, here, watch this with me. Let me, help me go through some of these things. Yeah. So I've been able to help support those things. We bring in new managers into the company and new processes, and then we can sit down and everybody can go through these videos and have some conversation about it. Okay, so this is what we've learned. Now, how are we going to, as a team, roll this out, and how are we going to make this ours and come about doing those things?
I hear your wife is quite the marketing expert.
Oh, she's a whiz. Yeah, she's a whiz.
Yeah, no, I've heard that.
She was supposed to be here with me today, but COVID.
COVID's changed everything. So I'm just sitting here thinking, man, it must be pretty amazing for you guys to be sitting here next to these guys.
Oh,
like, oh my God, it's the G-Man, it's the Drew Dog.
It's a whole other world. Well, it is a whole other world.
One of the things I love about what these guys do is they really are accessible. I watched today at the end of the event. I came right at the tail end. And, Gary's hanging out, talking to people, answering questions. And there's a real access, that dealers have, business owners, entrepreneurs have to experts, like Drew and Gary. And, that's pretty cool stuff as well. So we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for coming out to Vegas and being here for the 3 days. And Dan, appreciate it very much. And joining us up here in the Aria on the 16th floor in Andy Mitchell's room, right? Well, why are we down at the Motel 6 and Mitchell is up at this place? This is like 2,000 square feet suite up here. Before we wrap it up, Gary, any concluding comments about these guys, about anything?
Just really proud of both of them. They've come into the camp. They're prepared. They're mentally prepared, emotionally prepared. Dan, obviously you started this years ago. I think you might have mentioned that maybe I even had hair. Yeah. So
that was a long time ago. You were like in a crib. It was little baby Gary. You got to measure those KPIs, Mom.
But I think the most important lesson that we've taken away this week is that gambling at the craps table with me is hazardous to your health.
That's got to be pretty stressful too. Yeah. Right? It's pretty okay to get along with him if he's winning. But, of course, he's not gambling with the rent money. I've seen that, right? Some guys down there, you can tell they're in a lot of stress. And
they are.
Don't come out here with the rent money for sure. Gentlemen, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Ben, Dan, Drew Dog, appreciate it. G-Man, love you all, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah. Oh. Virtual.